Welcome back to another episode of The Late Bloomer Actor. This year, I've wanted to do some interviews with the hosts of podcasts that I listen to, as most of them are acting podcasts, and a very important part of my journey in the acting world. So today, I'm very excited to speak to a fellow late bloomer actor who hosts a very similar show in that she chats to other actors who have made acting their second act, hence the name of her show, Second Act Actors. Coming from the complete opposite side of the world, I chat today with Janet McMordie. She is a fellowship-trained sports medicine physician, actor, voiceover artist, improv, and stunt performer. Janet trained as a doctor, as what I like to say her real job, for starters, but is now on a similar path as mine in that she is now a working actor alongside her full-time profession. As host of Second Act Actors, a web series and podcast, she chats with other people who have made a major life and or career change into acting. And so today we chat about her journey into acting and how that journey affects her role as a doctor and what her future will look like going forward. We also discuss what she has learned from all the wonderful second act actors she has spoken to in her show. I hope you enjoy the show. Janet and I really connected with each other, I feel, possibly because we are so alike in our career and acting journeys thus far. So enjoy the episode and I'll have a quick chat to you at the end. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Late Bloomer Actor podcast. It is an evening for me. It's 8:30 p.m. here, and we are talking to Janet McMordie, coming live from Toronto, and I believe it's 7 a.m. on a spring morning for you. How are you, Janet?
I am great. It is a lovely, beautiful morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
And thank you very much for coming on. I've wanted to do this season and reach out to a couple of the podcasts that I listen to, because my podcast is about my journey as an actor and the people that I've met in my journey, both actors and industry professionals. And podcasts are another thing that I do as an actor that I listen to because I can get so much from them. So I wanted to reach out to those podcasts, to some of the podcasts that I listen to, so I could share what I've learned from them and bring the world closer together, so to speak. So thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, that like warms my heart. Thank you for listening to my podcast. That means a lot.
And sometimes it's like that, isn't it? As a podcast host, you don't get a lot of feedback, which is interesting because it's much like being an actor and submitting your auditions.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you're 100% right. Yes. And it's whenever you do get that feedback, I will keep it with me always. Thank you.
You are the host of Second Act Actors, which is very much similar in vein to mine, the Late Bloomer Actor, and you interview second act actors who, by the nature of it, are late bloomers, I guess. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I love the concept of your podcast as well, too, because I think, it's interesting. I think we're in this weird time in society, not to get philosophical, where we've got this big push from people to say, yeah, do it what you love, or it's never too late. But then there's also a weird, I don't know if there's pressure put on us or what's put on us, but there's always a little kind of birdie in the back that's like, no, I think it might be too late. So this, I think a weird time, at least I'm feeling it. I don't know if everyone else is, but like, has the train left the station and am I running to catch up? But also there's people being like, run faster, you can catch it.
And I love that. And we will certainly talk about that as we go through the interview. But your podcast was developed because you are a late bloomer or a second act actor, and you are, I believe, a current working doctor. So it's Dr. Janet McMordie. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself, how you became a doctor and why you didn't start out as an actor and how you ended up becoming an actor later in life?
Yeah. So yes, I am Dr. Janet McMordie, and that is a very expensive 2 letters before my name. No, joking aside, I love my medical job. I love my medical career. I think, growing up, I was always, and I'm sure this vein goes through a lot of your guests. It goes through a lot of mine. I was a very creative person growing up. I did all the theater, the bands, the choirs I could get my hands on. My parents are such creative people and really encouraged that.
Awesome.
But yeah, it was great. Both my parents are musicians and singers. They're just like very creative individuals and always really encouraged us to, do what we love to do. And it's funny, I never felt pressure from my parents or, to be honest, anybody to say, don't seek out the creative career path. That's not a logical, it's not a pragmatic thing to do. Find a reasonable job. I think I put that pressure on myself. I'm the type of person who, once I get an idea in my head, I kind of go full hog into it. And there were 2 classes in high school. I remember taking biology grade 12, which is all about the human body. We stopped talking about plants and animals. I was like, and we started talking about the human body. And then there was a physical education class, but it was fitness oriented. It wasn't like we're going to go play dodgeball and everyone's going to bully each other. It was weightlifting, how the body moves in space, all about, keeping physically active, but not from a sports lens. And I was fascinated by it. So both those things led me to kinesiology. So I did an undergrad in kinesiology and a master's degree in kinesiology. So again, sports science, basically.
See, I could never study that because I can't say that word.
Yeah, right. Human kinetics is another way to say it. It's kinesiology, human kinetics. Because just like fascinated about how the body moves, and also again the science behind it and the physics behind it. Which when I kind of think back, I'm like, there is a lot of I have a lot of curiosity, I think, as a scientist. That's what makes scientists is, why isn't this working? Why is this working? Ooh, let's think about that. And I think that when I kind of reflect on my creative upbringing, that's what my upbringing was, right?
Gotcha.
There was never you failed at that, stop. It was, ooh, you maybe failed at that. Let's see why. And so that kind of led me to, again, like kinesiology, the study of human movement. When you go to school, it's like, okay, most of you want to be doctors. I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to be a doctor. Shoot, so does everyone else. But I was very fortunate enough to get into medical school, and I trained as a family doctor, primary care, couldn't stand it. And then I found my true love, which is sport and exercise medicine. So I did a fellowship in sport and exercise medicine. That's what I practice today. Awesome. And so I absolutely love it. I work with athletes. I work with weekend warriors. Again, it's all about the study of human movement. Why is it not working anymore? How do we make it working anymore? It being your body. And I absolutely love it. I get to work in the operating room, and wow. It's wonderful. I think I do joke, and it's funny. I had a funny moment yesterday with, every so often I get a patient come in and they go, I Googled you and you're an actor too. I'm like, yeah, I am. And they're like, what are you doing here? I'm like, it's just my side hustle of medicine, my shadow career, just a little side gig.
I love it. I love that you call it your side hustle.
My side hustle, yeah. Just medical school. My side hustle as a doctor. I do love it. I think the pandemic was really hard for me, as it was for everyone. Healthcare workers, I think there was a weird kind of manic, I'm on the front lines of the war effort, right? We were feeling like, yeah, we're doing this. It was kind of surreal energy. You had to go. There wasn't time to process what was going on. And then as the pandemic kept going, I think a lot of us really started to process the oh my God, we've been making, at least myself, my medical career was my identity, my calling with the loss of what really does fuel my passion, right? The creativity. I'd gone so whole hog, tunnel vision focus into medicine, as you have to pass medical school, but to the detriment of my quality of life, my mental health, and to be honest, my joy of medicine, right? It starts to wane when that's all you are. And so that's when I kind of started seeing what else was out there and reminding myself what brought me joy as a kid. And that was acting, that was improv. And now I do a really fun blend of the two.
I love it. I love it. And there's so many different stories for late bloomers and the second act actors about how and why they came back to it. Some are, they were forced down that career path by parents or by choice or just to pay the bills, so to speak, because acting is such a tough gig. So, and that's what I like to put, and I know you do it a lot in your show as well, is about finding from these people who took that chance to go with something that they love now that they're in a position that they can do it. So that's wonderful. You're very similar to me in that I'm still pursuing my career of 32 years now in the government. Now, you will learn this if we ever chat again, but I can't talk about my career, unfortunately, in the public area. But it's very similar to your vein in that I'm trying to balance a professional career on one hand and take up the acting. So how do you find that the life balance of keeping both running smoothly?
Yeah, it's tough. And I do get this question asked a lot. People saying, like, how in the world do you balance things? And I think just like medicine, right? We practice medicine. I have a medical practice.
I always love how they say that lawyers are practicing and
it's
medical.
practicing. I love it so much, right? Like, again, it's that curiosity piece, right? Like we never know everything. We're just practicing. But I think that's what it is as well too, right? For me, trying to find that balance, it's this constant practice of like what's working, what isn't working. And there are days, there are weeks where I do not balance well, and I can tell like I'm stressed more. I can feel it in my body. I haven't taken the time to, practice acting, work on my craft. Finances are tight 1 month. And so I'm really stressed about that. I think it's tricky, but I think, and this is maybe a little braggy, but whatever, I am an excellent time manager. And I always have been and always will be. Again, a lot of it I was forced to learn it, right? I was
as a doctor,
as a doctor, right? Absolutely. I think I could manage my time extremely well. I think almost to a like militaristic way. Like, okay, I will spend half an hour on this. I will spend an hour on that. And I think that's been really helpful. But I think also what's been really helpful is the flip. The creative side of me has allowed me to say, okay, you can be a little, more flexible with your time. You can, take extra time here, spend less time there, which I think, again, now when I kind of say it out loud, I'm like, oh, that is proper time management. It's not being so military with it. It's being more flowy, more flexible. I think also, and this word gets thrown around all the time, like giving yourself some grace, but like giving myself some grace has been really helpful. I think we're all pretty hard on ourselves. I think the medical education system is shame-based learning and very proud about that. And I think that's where I got a lot of my like, oh, you didn't spend enough time doing this. Shame, shame, shame. Now I'm trying to just be like, no, it's okay. You spent time focusing on your emotional health as opposed to going to the gym and working on your physical health. That's just as important. So I think, just giving myself some grace, knowing I can't be everywhere at once. And also, figuring out what I want to do, what I love to do. And then also what benefits myself as an actor and a doctor. But I love supporting other people as well, too. So really making sure I focus on, spending time going to people's movie premieres, checking out their comedy shows, because that brings me joy. But then it also, like you were saying, develops community as well, too.
I love it. And with your journey that you've been on so far, have you ever had an acting opportunity that's really clashed with your full-time career, putting you in a position time-wise, having to make a decision whether you could do it? Or how did you overcome that, having to were you able to put the doctor stuff away, or do you have that freedom to do that sort of thing? Because sometimes acting opportunities are just now, go.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, I definitely have had those experiences. And I think what I learned was I've built my medical career to be fairly malleable, fairly, okay, if something pops up quickly, I have the capability to cancel a clinic or reschedule the next day, like quickly, which nobody likes to do. And luckily that hasn't happened very often, but I have the ability to do that. I have great people around me supporting me. I have great staff, great other physicians who understand. And I think that's, again, where community building is really helpful, because for me, it would be a short notice acting gig. But for my colleague, it's my kid is sick. I have, or they have what their version of a short notice acting gig is. So I would care for their patients. They would care for mine. There's this mutual understanding that like life happens and we need to be able to be flexible and supportive of everybody. So I've developed that community around me, which has been very, very helpful. I think also it is so rare for it to happen, like for me to cancel clinic, for me to have to rearrange a surgery or something like that, that when it does happen, people are very understanding. And by people, I mean patients, right? Because it is so rare. It's not like every single week I'm like, sorry, got to reschedule again, right? Yeah.
That's great.
Again, it has happened. It always hurts when it happens. And it's, I think I have also, now that I'm in the union, the acting union here in Canada, it's not as short notice as it was in the non-union world, because there's rules about that.
Cool.
There's certain time frames that we have to know when we're supposed to be on set. And so I think that's been really, really helpful as well too. A bit more, I was about to say professional. That's terrible. Non-union stuff can be professional as well too. But there's a bit more rules associated with it, so it doesn't happen as often. Yeah.
And self-taping, which is a whole topic in itself, that would work in your favor now, wouldn't it? Because you don't have to be at the 2:00 audition on the other side of town. So you can, if you get home at 10:00 at night, you could say, well, I want to go to bed, but you can get your audition done.
Yeah. And it's funny, I've never, ever, well, actually, I should say, I've had a couple theater in-person auditions, but I've never had an in-person audition because I started doing this during the pandemic.
Wow.
So even some of my, like I had a chemistry read callback was all on Zoom. Wow. And I mean, now I'm based in Toronto, so it's easier for me to get around to these auditions if they come up. But before I was a bit further up north here in Ontario in Canada, about 2 hours from Toronto, and that would have been a doozy of a drive. But yeah, absolutely. I think self-taping, like you said, we could wax poetic about the cons of it, but the pros for me far outweigh the cons these days. Yeah.
Awesome. And you just mentioned before your union. What's your union called in Canada?
Yeah, it's called ACTRA.
ACTRA, okay. And so you're very closely aligned to, obviously, being just north of the United States. So and there's a lot of films that get done up in Toronto too. So do you have the opportunities to be a SAG-AFTRA actor?
Yeah, so I think, I don't know for sure, so don't quote me on this. I think there is the possibility. There's weird visa rules. I don't think there's like a mutual agreement between ACTRA and AFTRA. Maybe there is, but I know for Canadians to get to work down in the States, there's a specific visa you have to get. I think it's with anyone who's trying to get into the States, right? The O1 visa of like, I am an exceptional actor.
Of extraordinary ability is the name
abilities. Of it. Yes.
Sounds like something straight out of an alien movie. I love it.
It's so funny because like to be a doctor in the States, it's the same visa, right? But you can't, it's like an O1B or whatever for like medical or science and technology. But the interesting thing about that visa, as you probably know, is that you can only do that. So I couldn't go down as a doctor and suddenly say, psych, I actually want to be an actor now. You give me the visa, haha.
Exactly.
No, they'd be like, excuse me.
Acting.
Right? Yeah.
Drag you out.
Yeah, so it's tricky in Canada. I think, again, another thing I could wax poetic on is all the issues about, American productions coming to Canada and flying in every single actor from the States and not hiring local Canadian actors, even the little 2-line roles. Like, come on. But then I also understand why, right? We don't have a star system here in Canada. There's a lot of issues with it. Everyone always laughs about our accents are easy to hear and annoying to hear, and lots of issues. Yeah.
I hear the only thing you can do with a Canadian accent is not to mistake it for an American accent. That's rude, apparently. Is that correct?
Sure. Yeah. And I guess it's the same for you with New Zealand or South African.
Definitely South African for sure. So, and I'm quite tone deaf, so I just had to knock back an audition today because it had to be 100% US accent based, and so I've got to get on top of it because there's so many productions, and that's probably similar to you, that you would have a lot of American productions that you need to have your accent down pat, wouldn't you?
Yep. And they say, obviously, in the breakdowns, right, standard American accent, and kind of have to go through. And they always, it's like a test in school. The sides are going to have, they've picked the ones where the character says sorry or about. And they're like, we're going to catch you. To be like, let's hear that Canadian cut. As soon as you hear this,
the two worst words together.
Yeah, worse. Exactly. Sorry, I'm about to leave. Like, it's so funny. And then, of course, you're doing your self-tape. And I spent 4 years on the east coast of Canada, where they have the thickest Canadian accents in the most beautiful way. And I've taken a bunch of it. It's absorbed into my being. And so I say A all the time. And I don't even recognize I'm saying it until someone, usually a non-Canadian, goes, "Yeah, you said the thing. That's so funny." And I've caught myself in self-tapes, trying to be casual and like be myself. And it's some Hallmark movie where it's supposed to be, American. And you're like, yeah. Like, oh yeah, I know. Those Christmas cookies you baked were really tasty, eh? And my reader goes, "Nah, Janet."
And you just said it. I realized what you meant. I have heard that. Wow. There you go. I love it. A quick question. Would you quit your work as a doctor if acting became successful enough to support you financially? And I'm sure you've thought about it. Because I'd quit tomorrow if I could. I'm getting really close to retirement now. I'm about 4 years away from taking my hard-earned pension, and then I can just focus 100% on acting. And I'm so excited, because it's like having that income, and it doesn't matter then. I can go where the acting is. So how would you go? Would you go tomorrow?
First off, congratulations on being so close. Like the light is at the end of the tunnel. Congratulations.
A long time.
Would I think it changes every day. And like, what an answer, Janet. Eye roll, that's annoying. I think, yesterday when I had a clinic that was wall-to-wall patients and people were cranky, I was like, get me out of here. This is terrible. I hate this. But then, tomorrow I have my favorite clinic, and I am very privileged and honored to be going to the Paralympics this year with Team Canada as one of their doctors. Like, that's one of the cool things that sports medicine doctors get to do, have the ability to apply for. And like, I get to do that. So when things like that come along, or like I work in the operating room and you do an incredible surgery and you get like this hug from the patient's family, I'm like, yes, like in that regard, I'm like, this is my calling. This is, I'm contributing to the world. I'm feeling good about myself. I love this work. At 4 a.m. when I'm called in to deliver a baby, I'm like, I hate this. But I think, and again, I'm not giving you a good answer, but I think it does change day to day. Sure, if I inherited $30 million, I probably would quit certain aspects of my medicine. I wouldn't work on call. That's meaning like working overnight. I wouldn't do that because I would want to sleep forever. And there's certain things I would take off of my plate if money was not a question. But I think I probably still would do some aspect of my medicine. And I'm so happy that I'm saying that now, because if you had talked to me 2 years ago, I would have said, absolutely not. Get me the heck out of here. I hate it so much. So it's definitely improved. Mm-hmm.
And that's great if you've got that type of job or that employment where you have those such high, great moments. Then if you get the position when you're later and when you want to focus more on your acting, then you can just pull out and say, well, I'm not going to do the crap stuff.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So with your podcast, you get to speak to a lot of us second act actors. So either from your own experiences or from stories you've gathered from those many guests on similar journeys as us, what do you think are the biggest hurdles to getting into acting at a later stage in life, especially when maintaining another full-time career?
I think that there's a lot, right? I think the biggest hurdle that I found from listening to people telling me their stories, but also feeling it myself, is two things, I would say. The first one is coming to terms with the lack of control in the entertainment industry. And I think that's impossible to do. Like, you will never come to terms with it. So maybe it's coming to terms with the fact that you'll never come to terms with the fact that there's no control. But I think that's a real hurdle that a lot of people get stuck on. And I think that's where a lot of people, when they get stuck on that, to be honest, they quit, right? Because there is, and we talked a bit about this before we hit record, right? There's no feedback. You have no idea if you're doing good. You send your self-tapes out into the ether. You never hear anything. You're seeing everyone who's an actor on social media being the biggest, brightest, best selves. And you go, why am I not that? What am I doing wrong? What is this? And I think that's it was a big shock to me, because most other careers have very definite milestones that you need to get to become the thing. And once you get that Girl Scout badge, once you get that certificate, you can be the thing, right? As a doctor, if you pass the medical licensing exam, you can be a doctor. There's nothing for that in acting, because there are these stories of people plucked from obscurity in a shopping mall and are famous now.
And you've spoken to quite a few people like that who were found that way, who never even considered being an actor. And then they were stuck in there. I think there was one guy, he was a security guard or something. And then now he's just going berserk. And it wasn't even a thought in his head.
Yeah. And then there's the other flip, right? There are people who have studied this craft since they were, and they aren't second act actors, right? They've studied since they were 4, and they've never, quote unquote, broken out, right? Like, so there's no control there, you know, or why didn't I get this role? I'm perfect for it. Oh, it went to the director's daughter, you know, like, so no, you look too much like the first AD's ex-girlfriend. It's just going to go to somebody else, right? So it has nothing to do with your talent. What? Like, that's crazy to me. So I think that's a big, big hurdle. Ooh, the other thing I find is, because, again, there's no control, there also means that there's no real information about how do I do this, right? Okay, you say you can take an acting class. Sure, what acting class? There's a billion out there and a bunch of scams and cults, right? You know, for me, it was, how do I learn who everyone is on a set when I have no idea? You know, I walk onto a set and it's like, here's the first AD. Who am I allowed to talk to? Who am I not supposed to talk to? Who's important? Everyone's important on a set, obviously, but like, who's important for me as the actor right now? Who, right? And you walk on a set and you're kind of like, I don't want to bug anyone. So I think that is really tricky as well, too, because there is no school for second act actors. Sure, you could go to film school or theater school, but even the people who did that, I find, are like, Janet, can you tell me what, like, a second AD is? Like, I just learned a couple days ago, like, what a grip does. Like, you know, I'm having one on my podcast. I'm like, if I'm asking, what do you do? Somebody else has got to be wondering that. So I think that's a big hurdle. I think people kind of go, I have no idea, but I think it's something we need to learn as actors, is the crew side of things. And so I think that's a big one, is that we just don't know what everyone does. Exactly. Like, how are we supposed to know?
And you don't want to find out by being that person that makes that wrong mistake. You can't talk to him. That's a director.
Right.
I was just asking if he wanted a coffee.
Well, and I think the hard thing is that we need to know these things before we get onto a multi-bajillion-dollar set where time is money, and they don't want the little 2-bit actor whose job is just to say, here's your coffee, sir, to the star, being like, oh, hi, can I, like, actually change my costume? Can I, like, work the script? Like, no. Like, I think we need to know how it all works before we actually get on to set.
Exactly.
And I think, yeah.
And I've heard so many stories about the 20 worders on an Aaron Sorkin project going up to the star saying, oh, can I just wing these scenes, or do I need to know it word for word? And they're going,
Aaron Sorkin,
so much trouble.
For word. Yeah.
And fast.
Yes.
So on the flip side of that, what are the benefits of coming into acting at a later stage of life?
So many. Oh my gosh. I think the biggest thing that I've learned, my biggest fear coming in was, again, like we talked, the train has left the station and I am chasing after it, trying to catch up, and I'm competing against actors who've been doing this since they were born. And who am I to do that, right? And I think my original thought was, oh, I'm at a disadvantage because I wasted my 20s and most of my 30s in the library learning how to become a doctor. And I'll never forget my very first acting coach. Her name was Michelle. I've actually had her on the podcast. She's amazing. She almost smacked me upside the head, being like, what? The things you did in your life leading up till now don't just disappear in a puff of smoke. They don't just go away. It's not like you're just starting again. You have life experience, and you've been literally witnessing the world like you're in you're at a zoo, watching the zoo animals, right? You have a laboratory that you're watching everyone You basically, that's what your job is as a doctor. Yes, but also as any job, right? I think as we get older, we're supposed to become better human beings. Not everyone does, of course, but
No.
as you go along, you're supposed to be witnessing the human condition, witnessing suffering and joy and developing empathy. And I sure as heck did not have that when I was 18, 19, 25, even a year ago, even yesterday, right? Every day there's something that I'm learning and absorbing from the world around me. And I think that's so, so key as actors. And I think the other thing, and this is the pragmatic approach, is I have a job that has allowed me financial freedom-ish. This is an expensive part of the world and time of the world.
Oh,
but it has allowed
expensive
the
now
whole
too.
world's expensive, right?
It's all getting worse and worse.
It's exactly. But I'm not relying on my art to
feed you,
buy groceries, right? And I think that is an immense privilege, I recognize, but also I worked extremely hard to do that. So there isn't a desperation in my craft of acting. And it's that lovely hierarchy of needs that we learned about in like Psychology 101. If you don't have your base needs of like food, water, sex, a shelter, everything, the first thing that falls off is creativity, because it's something you don't need to survive. So if you have those base needs met because you have another job that's giving you the finances we need to survive in capitalism, then you have the ability to say, I can take some time to be creative. And I think that's so, so, so key. I hate the starving artist mentality.
No, and I love that, because that's what we need to, well, for all actors, I think we need to focus on the positives of the journey, regardless of whether you're 18, like my son has just started at doing a performance course, or ourselves, where we're coming out of a career. You've got to find those positives and focus on them, because there are so many negatives in life in general, and so many negatives in the acting world, that they can smash you down so quick. And I was just talking today for another episode with some casting directors, and they were saying the same thing, that you've got to find the way through the troughs, because there's all the positives can be so far and few between. So you need to make sure that we as actors, and we teach each other that the positives are there, and that's what you need to focus on. I love that.
Oh, I love that. We teach each other the positives. That is wonderful. That is a beautiful thing.
And is that one of the reasons why you started your podcast? I know that's why I did it, because I wanted to put the information that I learned, that I either found the hard way or I went and found because I needed to know. I wanted to put it out there so it was another avenue for people to find.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, we talked about community building, right? I think that is so important to maintain the positives. And again, we have social media showing that everyone is living their best and beautiful life. But then we talk to other second act actors, late bloomer actors, and they're like, this is hard. It's hard. I'm frustrated. This industry is rough. There's a weird mentality in acting, in the entertainment industry, where for some reason people don't talk about the struggles. Like, I haven't had an audition in a couple weeks. I don't want to say that out loud, because I want people to be like, whoa, she's so successful. Like, isn't it bizarre, right? Where I'm like, no, like it's been a really rough time. But I think we want people to think that we're wanted, right? Like, and also we want people to think like, I've made the right decision choosing acting when everyone else said dumb decision, right? No, I'm still wanted. I think also what I really love about doing my podcast, and I never really thought about this before until somebody mentioned it, and now that's all I think about, is the vast majority of people I have on my show, and I wonder if it's similar to you, probably, when I've listened to it. Yeah, this is their first real interview talking about their acting life.
Definitely.
And there's a bit of, I know there's self-serving in that, and the fact that I had somebody mentioned how, like, oh, you're such a philanthropist. Like, you're giving so much good to these, like, young in the, not in the chronological age, the entertainment industry age, actors who've never had an opportunity to speak to someone about their craft. and you're giving them a platform to talk about it. And that's really encouraging, and it's affirming to a newer actor, especially a second act actor, who I'm sure is getting berated from all fronts saying, what are you doing? You're leaving your career as a lawyer to become an actor. What is wrong with you? So there's an affirming to my conversations, which I love. And I love hearing from actors that was the case. Yeah,
I love it. And do you find that a lot of those actors, or even yourself, when you get to talk to some people that you have great respect for, I know you've done some casting directors and industry professionals, well, that imposter syndrome that they all talk about, do you find that both yourself and your guests go, why me?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Terrible.
And it's terrible. And I think it's terrible, but it's also... it's
liberating.
Sometimes it is, right? Again, it's liberating the fact that we're all thinking it, right? So there's strength in numbers. Like, if we're all imposters, like then who is the real? Then we're all not, right? Like, it's a very weird feeling. But I think, again, in the creative field, you can't not have imposter syndrome, because there's no control, there's no feedback, there's no it's you are the art, you are the vessel. You know, it's not like, here is the surgery I just performed and everyone goes, good surgery, right? There's something in between me and the product. You know, here is the painting I made. If you hate my painting, you don't hate me. You know, but in my art form of acting, that is so personal, and so, like, if you don't like my acting, it means you don't like me as a person. And that is where I think it's like, why me? Like, why am I allowed to do this very emotional, personal thing? Like, how dare I? And why are you letting me do this? And also, please don't hurt me. It's a very weird sensation. It's yeah.
Yeah, and you were talking before about you get your doctor's degree and you become a doctor. If you go for a job interview and they ask you a bunch of questions, you either get the job or you don't. But they more than likely will come out and tell you why you didn't get the job. Look, we think you need another couple of years in the lower hospitals, or more lower cases of being a lawyer or anything. Or we just found someone who's got another degree. They're much better than you. They've got more experience. And you go, I can handle that.
Yeah.
But the problem with the acting side of things is that you don't get that feedback, but it can be as simple as that. You need the dad to have blue eyes. Sorry, you were perfect, but you've got brown eyes. Sorry. So it makes it really tough. And that's where that imposter syndrome comes, is when you do get some of those successes and you're on an interview and you're going, I don't think I should be here, because all these years I've been thinking I sucked.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I think so often we don't hear that it has nothing to do with our talent. Like, I think we're all talented, right? We're good at this. Like, this is why we're here. We love it. We can express our emotions. It's perfect, you know, but we don't get that feedback. And exactly. So when it is because you have the wrong color eyes, I don't know, like, there's a frustration there. There's a relief there. There's okay, at least I don't know. There's a lot of emotions that come through. And I'm a person who thrives on feedback. I mean, that's what medicine is, right? And I think medicine is, when you're in your training, it's quite negative feedback, right? Like I was saying earlier, shame-based learning is like actually the medical curriculum, which is terrible. But I wish so much that there was a little drop-down menu for casting directors on Actors Access or any of the casting sites, that they could just do, like, it could be a little, you know, they could choose from like 10 different things, like, great tape, not right, you know, could have done this a little more, like, so close. Just that little, like, a little smidge of feedback. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And then I would love that.
It's interesting because my podcast is sponsored by Castability, and I do quite a few tapes with them, and because they rate the casting director that views your video, and all the actors have done the same video, and you put into groups of 5, so they'll rate you in 5 different areas, believability, specificity, and a couple others I can't quite think of. But you sort of get that sort of feedback coming back, and that's interesting to see if the casting directors could do that. You say, hey, you rocked it. You could get a 5 out of 5 in believability. You just had the wrong eye color or something.
Yeah. And I understand,
wonderful.
Like, art is tough because art is subjective, right? But I think there's so many things in this world that are subjective that do get judged, right? For good and for bad. I think, but like figure skating, gymnastics, like stuff like that get graded because they have to, right? You have to find a winner and you have to find a silver medalist. And I think it would just be so nice to have, even if it's like you were saying, even if it's just a little thing that says you're on the right track. And I know they say, oh, every time a casting director brings you in, it means you're good at they like you, you're there. And you're like, no, it's not enough. It's not enough. I think I would love just a little bit saying, yeah, like you're saying, great tape, not the right person.
Yes.
Not moving forward.
Wonderful.
Just a little bit. Come on, we can handle it. We're tough.
We'll see what maybe the implementation of AI in the casting process will.
Oh God!
But that's a whole other talk for another day, baby.
Oh Lord!
One of the biggest discussions I have with a lot of my people, and I know you do too, is the differences between young actors and us more mature types, and that is with training. So, where have you focused your training on, and do you see training as more important than life experience, or do they go hand in hand?
I think they definitely go hand in hand. I think we should put a bit more emphasis on training at the beginning. And by training, I mean like script analysis, self-tape techniques, like kind of like logical, this is what you need to do step by step by step, and how to get an agent, blah, 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 how to dissect a script and get intentions and actions and all that stuff. But I think we do a complete disservice when we don't, again, focus on the life experiences, right? And I think the trouble is that as we get older, at least for me, I find it really difficult to label emotions in my body. And I think it's because I know as a doctor, I have been taught emotional restraint. Like I'm not I'm still a human, I get emotional, but as doctors, we are taught very much to bring that down as a self-preservation technique, right? You can't get really emotional every time you see something horrific in medicine because it happens every single day. You're going to burn yourself out, right? This is a marathon, not a sprint. So, and again, that's been a detriment to my acting career early on, is not knowing where emotions sit in my body. And so that's where I think we need to kind of bring life experience in along with acting training and kind of mesh the two together, and also recognize like, okay, bring up some of these memories that can develop the emotions in your body for your scene. But then also I think us with life experiences, we need to remember that I feel like because of my life experiences, I'm better at bringing the emotions forward and then pushing them aside once the scene is done. I don't stay in that deep, dark hole, say if it's a scene that I need to be in a deep, dark hole. And that is truly due to my life experience. And, I have the ability to harness a deep emotion, then I have the ability to say, all done, cut, gone, right? I can go about my day as opposed to living in it forever and ever and ever.
That's a big thing, because that is such
huge.
A big mental health issue for a lot of actors, because they obviously, the Heath Ledgers of the world got into these dark areas and they haven't been able to get out of it. And, a lot of people have thought, no, that was just something wrong with them. But now we're starting to learn that, no, this is a thing, and we need to find those ways of being able to use those emotions, but then to be able to put them aside and get back to your normal life.
And it comes with time, honestly. I think I've done some pretty interesting, especially theater work in my time as an actor, that it was rough to pull myself out of some of these scenes and out of, I'd have the post-show blues after a theater show, and it would really, I'd be in a dark place, for a while. But it was learning to recognize that and say, oh, okay, I understand this. This happened to me before when I was a teenager, an angsty teenager, and this is what helped. Same, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, do the same things that have helped you before. I think for me, when you're asking like what training has helped me, two things have really helped me, especially recently. Improv. 100%. I think everyone needs to do some improv. Every actor, especially
Improv
those
is
of us
so
who are second act
scary.
actors. It's so scary, but it's so fun. And I think yes, it's scary, but I think the thing that I realized was if you do it with people who are also there to learn improv, you get, there's nothing better than the support of your improv peers when you're on stage. Like the improv group that I perform with, before we go on stage, we look at each other and we all go, got your back, got your back, got your back. Right? There's the yes and approach, right? You're never leaving someone behind. You're always building off of what somebody else says. There's never a bad idea. You're supporting someone. You're not leaving them hanging. And there's such a freedom to improv that is, yes, absolutely terrifying as a logical brain person who likes routine and likes data and likes this is what you do. But man, does it feel good. And I've brought so much of that into my self-tapes, to the point of I'm like a little worried sometimes because I do improvise some stuff in tapes. I'm like, oh, they're probably thinking like, what is this girl doing?
Off script.
But like it brings joy to a very annoying self-tape, right? You're like, no, I'm going to enjoy this. This is supposed to be fun. The other training I've done that's been really lovely just recently has been some somatic body work. And again, like I was saying, feeling where in my body emotions sit, for good and for bad, and the ability to kind of bring them into more of a, not so much like I'm waving my hands around, but that sensation of, okay, my body is also part of my instrument. It's not just my voice. And I think the problem was I learned acting in the pandemic. So it was Zoom, it was here. So I'm like, what do I do with my hands? I don't know. So this has been really helpful in figuring out where my body is in space and also where my body feels emotions. So a lot of like, somatic body work and breath work and stuff. It's been really, really fun.
Oh, that's good. And if you had the opportunity to go back or to go and do a 3-year degree, would you do that now? Or do you think you like the approach that we take, the ad hoc courses and the casting director workshops, etc., that we learn from?
Yeah, I think if I was to go, I probably wouldn't go back. If I could like pause time right now with the brain I have, because if I had to go back and like do theater school when I was like 18 or 19 or 20, there's no way I'd be able to take advantage of all the goodness that you're learning.
Gotcha.
It's the same with any type of university, right? We go to university way too young. I would love to be able to go to university now and like do all the learning. Oh my gosh, that would be so great. If I could pause time and do a theater degree right now, I would love to. Not because I think I need it, but because I want to do it. Because it looks so fun. It looks like you get to do all this cool. You get to study theater. You get to work with other theater nerds. Do you need to do it? Absolutely not. No. In fact, everyone I talk to who's done theater school or film school is like, yeah, I loved it. It was great. But I don't think you'd have to do it. No. It's just a lovely concentration of studying what brings you joy. Oh, yeah, I'd love to hit pause on the world and just go do it now that I'm like in my late 30s, almost 40. Oh, that'd be the best.
I love it. The only drawback would be that you'd be in there with all the 18 to 19-year-olds, and I'm not sure how that'll work.
This is true. Yep.
One thing I did want to ask you, Janet, as a working doctor, how do you feel when you get an audition to play a doctor, or better still, you win a role as a doctor? Now, again, I without saying what my career is, but I get auditions for my job all the time, and I got into acting to be somebody else.
So I never get auditions for doctor because I don't look like one, right? And everyone goes, oh, anyone can be anything. Yes, most doctors now, if you looked at the stats, look like me, right? We're females in our late 30s. That's the vast majority of doctors in Canada deal with it. But the industry says, no, doctors are old white dudes, right? Especially if they're like little two-liners, right? You're going to bring in the voice of God, and that is the old white dude in a white coat. Sure, it makes it easy for the audience to understand, here's the voice of authority, here's the person of authority, right? So I rarely go out for doctor roles. I have had doctor roles, but they are because the shows were, like, for example, there's a show that I'm in coming out, season 2, called Two Brothers. Little shout out to that. My friend is the executive producer and said, oh, we have a doctor role. Oh my God, this is going to be so fun. Let's get the actual doctor. Yay. And so it was so great. I go out for nurses ultrasound techs, x-ray techs all the time. And I'm happy to. I mean, I'm not smart enough to be a nurse, but I'm happy to. I like the lingo, right? I can speak the language, and it's a ton of fun. I also help people who have medical self-tapes. I've done that before, done some coaching, being like, how do I pronounce this? How do I do that? Right? Again, the medical lingo.
Of course.
But I remember working on a show doing surgical hand doubling. So it was a medical show. So anytime they zoomed in on the actress, any of the females, their hands in surgery, those were my hands. And I remember thinking in my head, why am I not auditioning for this show? I'm an actual doctor. But then, no, like if you're an actor, you can also be you can act as a doctor, just like I can act as a lawyer, right? I'm not an actual lawyer. It doesn't put me at an advantage. So I don't mind it. I would love to be cast as a doctor any day now. Like I can speak the language real easy, but I also understand why I'm not.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we've got a lot of talk in the acting realms now about real life. So, gay people playing gay people and transgender playing transgender, but it still boils down to the best actor for the role, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And now, as a doctor, do you look at the doctors on TV and go, we don't do that. That's not how you do it.
Absolutely. And that's the most fun, right? I think that's the most fun again, when I was on this medical show, I was consulting, right? Giving them like, okay, you're doing like, this is how we would do it. For example, scrubbing in for surgery. They never do it properly on TV because it doesn't look good, right? You have your mask on, you can't see the person's face. So every time you see them scrubbing in for surgery in entertainment, a film and TV, they don't have their mask on, right? So everyone in healthcare is like, wrong. Grey's Anatomy, your stethoscope's in the wrong way. You won't be able to hear anything. Yeah, absolutely. It drives us nuts, but that's also half the fun, right? Yeah. I kind of wonder, do they do it on purpose just so we keep watching, being like, oh yeah, it's not real life, as I'm sure like, lawyers do and cops do when they watch
police are big Order. Because police, you see it. It's always the classic on a police show where they're just about to bust the door down, they take their gun out, and then they rack it. Now, no police officer walks around with an unracked firearm because it's not going to shoot if they need it.
But it looks so
it looks
cool
good on
camera.
It sounds great.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Again, when you're scrubbing in for surgery, this is usually on film and TV when they're having deep, intense conversations, because they're like, oh, it's a stressful, beautiful time to do a deep conversation. But when they got their mask covering their face, I remember the director, I was showing the actors how to scrub in and blah, blah, and he goes, no, it doesn't look good. Oh, okay. sure,
and all the
fine.
other things. Now, as we wind up, I'm mindful of time, but just coming back to your show, and you've spoken to so many people. I just don't know how I know your show's weekly. I struggle to get my episodes out monthly, so I congratulate you on that with such a big career. But do you have any stories from your guests that really stand out to you, a journey or a process that has really motivated you to keep going on your journey?
Oh gosh, there's so many. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Before we recorded, I was trying to, because I've got some great episodes that I remember listening to. And I'm just going, I wish I could remember where to find them, because you've got some great people who've just been through some amazing processes.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. And I think about, it's funny because there've been a lot recently where if people watch on YouTube, they can see me getting choked up. Because people's stories are so intense and beautiful. One that comes right to my mind is Barry Clifton, who was a U.S. Marine turned actor. I know Barry. I listened to your episode with him, and I met him first in Castability in one of in the green room. He's a great bloke. Really nice. He's so wonderful, and I think he just has so much. Like, there wasn't really like a moment in that episode that stands out. It was just the whole episode of just hearing his story, hearing his family support of him, and then seeing, I think, you know what, the biggest thing for me now with Barry is seeing him succeeding. Seeing him getting cast in all these cool things and knowing his story, being like, yes, you deserve it. We all deserve it, of course. We do. my friend, I'll always go back to my buddy Sean Sims, who was a professional football player. Now he's a corrections officer turned actor.
Wow.
He has a really intense life story. And again, I think he made me cry 3 times. I mean, we've been friends for a long time, so I knew it was going to be intense. I'd heard his story before. And he was just so generous with it, telling the public about it, which was wonderful. And again, I think what is sticking with me with a lot of people is seeing what they're doing now. So like he's on set right now on a massive film, like massive, like awesome. This is it for him, right? Like this is the thing that you should propel him forward. Or even if it doesn't propel him forward, this is the thing that you like are on your deathbed being like, I got to do this film. And so seeing my guests do the thing, even if it's something small, like I made my first film, or I'm in a commercial, or I'm doing stand-up for the first time. That is what brings me so much joy. It makes my heart explode. And I have like a little sign. It's like to the side here. It says "Rage Happy," and it's somebody described that's me. That's Janet in a nutshell. Like when I get happy, I get like mad. I'm so proud of you. I want to flip this table. And I think that is the feeling I get with this podcast, and just seeing like everyone just doing the thing, you know, like it's just
all trying so hard to do.
We're all doing it. And I'm so honored and proud to be a small little part of doing the thing for them and try and promote these people who are just trying to be a bit more creative in this garbage world.
I love that, and that you're now part of their journey, and that's why I reached out to you, because I always talk about my journey, so to speak, and your podcast has been part of my journey. So your show's been a huge contribution to my learning outcomes, because I learn something from every guest, and that's what it's like maintaining the rage, so to speak. I think you just mentioned it before. So before we wind up, before we say goodbye, do you have one piece of advice that you would give to an aspiring second act actor, aka late bloomer, or any actor looking at getting into acting now? What would you give a person? It's a big question. I
should have planned this, because I asked this question too, and I know you do, because I listen to your show too. Oh gosh. And it's such a cliche, but of course the first thing that comes into my mind is to just try it. And I mean, that's what a ridiculous thing to say, but I think, and it's been the piece of advice that so many people give, because it's true. You know, I think the barrier to entry for acting these days with the virtual world that we now live in is fairly low. The bar, like, it's pretty low. If you want to take an acting class, you can take it from anywhere in the world. And I did just that. I took online improv during the thick of the pandemic. Second City, Chicago. There were people from every corner of the planet in that class. And you don't have to have the delusions of grandeur in this weird acting business of I want to be famous, I want to be blah blah. If that's your goal, great. But if you just want to test the waters and explore who you are as a creative individual, or if you're just feeling that itch of something's missing in my life and it used to be performing when I was a kid, let's just try it. I think there's no harm in just trying something. And I'm going to steal these words from a prior guest, Nicole. She was like, when you start something, when you're a beginner, you will always suck. That's what being a beginner is. And that's great, right? Be curious about, why are you kind of sucking? Are you enjoying this? Are you enjoying the build of learning how to do this? Are you frustrated? Again, it's that scientist curiosity. Like, what is it about this that you love, that you hate? But just try it. And just have fun sucking, have fun failing. That's what being a curious human in this world is. Like, why not? There really is no downside to just trying it out and just see if you love it. And I think contributing to the world as a creative is extremely important. And we don't value that very much. But I think if you contribute to the world as a creative individual, sharing your story and telling your story, that hopefully will help others become better people as we get older, as we're supposed to, because you sharing your story develops empathy. That's how we pass legacy on. And then again, that's how we hopefully develop into better human beings. So please share your story and be creative.
Awesome. I just love that. Thank you very much. Everyone, you can get to your podcast platform player, whatever you listen to, and look up second act actors and do what I did when I first found it and binged them all. I had Janet McMordie in my ear for a couple of weeks there till I caught up, I remember. So thank you very much, Janet. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on my show. So now our journeys are now intertwined. I love it. Thank you very much. And it's you've got a wonderful spring day. We've got a wonderful winter evening. I'm not a big fan of winter, so you probably would not find me as a resident in Canada, but I will come up there because there's so many Australians up there in TV shows that are filmed there, I'm sure. So, thank you very much, Janet. It's been a pleasure. And as I like to say, that perhaps I'll see you on set.
Yes. Oh, the dream.
Thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, how was that? That, in my opinion, was just fantastic. Janet is just a wonderful person to chat with, and she's just learnt so much from everybody that she has had on her show, as well as her journey as a doctor. It just it has molded her into this person that has so much to give in the community, which I found was fantastic. And if you haven't checked her show out, I do thoroughly recommend it. It's there's some great people on there, not just from Canada, but from around the world. So it's a brilliant source of information for your journey as an actor. And you don't even have to be a second act actor or a late bloomer like myself. There's just so much to learn from what people have discovered in their acting journeys and how they've made it work for them. So yes, definitely check out the podcast. So I just like to reflect on my conversation with Janet. I found a profound sense of inspiration in our shared journey as late bloomer actors. And Janet's path and transitioning from a successful career in medicine to the unpredictable world of acting mirrors my own experiences and struggles in many ways. I'd like to talk about some key takeaways and insights that resonated deeply with me and will undoubtedly shape my journey going forward and hopefully yours. Both Janet and I embarked on our acting careers later in life, bringing with us a wealth of life experiences and a strong foundation from our respective first acts. This common ground allowed us to connect on a deeper level, I feel, discussing the unique challenges we face as late bloomers or second act actors in the entertainment industry. From dealing with imposter syndrome to balancing our professional careers with our passion for acting, our stories highlight the resilience and determination required to pursue this path. One of the most significant insights from our conversation was the value of life experience in acting. And I've talked about this a lot on the show, and I've asked many people that I've interviewed what their thoughts are with it. Janet emphasized how her background in medicine has enhanced her ability to empathize and connect with her characters on a deeper level. This perspective reinforced my belief that our diverse experiences outside of acting can profoundly enrich our performances, bringing, authenticity and depth to our roles. Another key takeaway was the importance of financial stability in pursuing our creative endeavors. It's a tough pursuit for anybody at any time in their lives. So Janet's continued work as a sports medicine physician provides her with the financial freedom to explore acting without the pressure of financial desperation, which so many actors do get and can be such a hard part of your journey and something to push through. So this balance between a stable career and a passion for acting is something I strive to maintain as well. It allows us to take risks a little bit more and embrace opportunities without the constant worry about our financial situation. And I mentioned before, our discussion was also touched on the imposter syndrome. It was particularly enlightening. Janet's candidness about her own struggles with feeling like an imposter in the acting world was both comforting and empowering, because it's something that I go through every day. And even as a host of this podcast, sometimes I think, really, me? Is anyone listening, sort of thing? Do they want to listen to what I have to say? So recognizing that even successful individuals like her experiences, these feelings helps to normalize them and reminds us that it's okay to feel uncertain at times. Embracing these feelings and continuing to move forward despite them is a crucial part of our growth as actors. And finally, Janet's passion for sharing stories and creating a legacy through her podcast resonated deeply with me, because that's why I put this show together, to have conversations with other second act actors or late bloomers. Not only inspires us, but it also provides a sense of community and support. By sharing our journeys, we contribute to a larger narrative that encourages others to pursue their passions, regardless of where they are in life. So in conclusion, my conversation with Janet was a reminder of the strength and resilience required to pursue a second act in acting, to be a late bloomer actor. Our shared experiences and insights will continue to inspire and guide me as I navigate my own journey. Embracing our life experiences, maintaining financial stability, confronting imposter syndrome, and the power of storytelling are all lessons that will undoubtedly shape my path going forward. I hope our discussion inspires others, inspires you to embrace your second act, if that's what your journey you're on. And if you're a young person like my son, you can learn so much from this as well. It's not about doing this as the second act. It's about being on the journey and taking it forward. So that's the end of a wonderful episode. Like and subscribe on your podcast platform if it's enabled. And if you took something away from this episode or any of the other episodes that I have, consider sharing it on your social media for others to find it. And to finish, if you find value from my show and are in a position to support the show, as I am completely self-funded each month, then follow the links in the show notes to become a monthly subscriber. I'll truly appreciate it, and it will enable the show to continue and improve. Thank you again for listening, and as always, I'll see you on set.